Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Genuine Chit-Chat. This week is part 2 of my chat with Molly. Now, if you haven't already, be sure to go back and listen to part 1, but I think this episode is good enough to listen to by itself, so if you don't fancy it for whatever reason, no problems at all. Now, last week we spoke about Molly starting university. We touched a bit on sort of body language because she did some sort of arts project about it that obviously there's no point delving into because half of you have already heard it and the other half aren't that interested. We spoke about failure being healthy, university and the general education system, and then the episode sort of ended with us discussing sort of intelligence of children. I said children are stupid. I didn't necessarily mean that children are dumb necessarily, but we kind of delve into it a little bit more and I kind of unpack my idea a little bit more, so yeah, that's fine. As well as, unpacking the idea of children's intelligence, we also talk about helping people, the creative unemployment program, and when Molly was unemployed and sort of what she kind of did to get out of that and what she basically does for a living now, including basically organising festivals for young people. And there's loads of great stuff we talk about. And then we reminisce, towards the end, we sort of reminisce a little bit about, because we went to school together and whatnot. So that was cool. And then we spoke about transgender just a little bit. Because Molly knows someone who's transgender, and maybe if I'm lucky they'll come on the podcast at some point, because I'd love to chat to someone about that sort of thing, especially not someone who's like a big Hollywood person who's like, in the limelight like Caitlyn Jenner or Laverne Cox necessarily, more so someone who's on the ground floor in a sense, someone who, it's just a different dynamic, and I'd just be really interested to hear a perspective of someone who's not famous and is transgender. So yeah, maybe that'll happen in the future, maybe it won't. If it doesn't, then I'm very sorry to all of you. Now, there's no promos today, so there's not really anyone to introduce. It's just straight onto the show as soon as I finish this sentence, essentially, almost. Or am I never going to stop? Am I? Okay. I am going to stop now. So I'll be back at the end to talk about what's going on next. Be sure to like us on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, and all that usual sort of jazz. Anyway, thanks as always for listening, guys, and I'll be back at the end. Welcome to Genuine Chit-Chat, where we have honest conversations with interesting people. And I'm your host, Mike Burton. I will be fair, I'm not saying you shouldn't listen to 13-year-olds and no knowledge comes out, because you get a lot of kids who are even like 7 or 6 or anything. They come up with such profound, brilliant, intelligent things. Yeah. That, I think I might have used this example before on the podcast, but my niece Amelie, she's 11 or 12 now. When she was 7 or 8, this is just comparing how much more intelligent she was than I was that age, okay? She drew a picture when she was 7 or something, it was for me, and she drew a rainbow, and she also drew a sun and a rain cloud. Because she said...
Oh, damn, she knows.
Yeah, because she was like, you can't get rainbows like both. And I was like, I've drawn rainbows up to the age of probably 16 without either of those things, because I didn't... Obviously, you can't get a rainbow with that sort of thing, but I hadn't even considered that.
In the drawing, yeah.
Kids, and there's a podcaster...
Scientific drawings by...
by Emily Burton. There's a podcaster, there's a podcast called Young, Free and Coupled, and I think I've mentioned them on the podcast before. I really recommend people go check them out. But it's two people, it's Issa and Shamika. They're two parents who living in London. I think they're about 30. And I was talking to Issa over Skype, and they've got 4 kids. And they were talking, one of them said to him, he said, "Dad, how do you make hope?" As in, now that's a really low question. It was basically like, how do you become hopeful about the world around you? As the kid was asking, how do you retain hope for other people? How do you?
Oh my God!
How are you hopeful for? And he told me that. I was like, that is such. I could do an entire podcast for 2 hours talking about hope, about how make hope or how you can create hope, how hope affects people in different ways. It was like, I think that his kid, he said, was quite young. I think it might have been 7, but I can't say for sure. But it was definitely under 10. And I was just like...
That's amazing.
And because kids, their minds haven't been... The kids' minds are so open and free. But what happens is, I think, the problem is a lot of education, a lot of parents in the wrong ways and other factors kind of force them into these little compartments.
Boxes,
and crush them. And I kind of describe it as using sandpaper to file off the edges of the mind. That's kind of what happens. You try and make everyone this perfectly spherical ball. You go to work 9 to 5. You do this job. You do the office. They want to
be able to understand everyone, don't they?
Yeah.
So that's why they do that. So
exactly.
You're going to go in this little box, so I understand exactly who you are and what I can give to you.
Yeah.
So it's easier for them.
Yeah.
But it's not easier for the child, is it?
But that's it was good for you to pretense that, because me saying all kids are stupid. I mean, like, in the general grand scheme of things, I think, on an individual basis, when you look back on the knowledge you've gained and how you grow, because there are certainly 13-year-olds that are more intelligent than I am in academia.
Well, yeah, I agree. You know, there's loads of people who are like way more intelligent than me, and they're so much younger.
Yeah, but it's obviously one of the weird things with intelligence is that I always find difficulty in is trying to define it, because you can't.
It's multi-layered, isn't it? You can have intelligence in so many various different things.
Well, I think you and I are probably fairly similar intelligence in general, from what I remember of you in school, our discussions now and that sort of thing. But if we did, say, tests of everything we know, there wouldn't...
I would fail them all.
But they wouldn't be... I don't know. Yours is more about the arts and more with people organising, that sort of thing. Whereas I have like little pockets of knowledge and random stuff. And I'm quite organised individual in some sense as well. But when it comes to artsy things, I'm not as in tune with it. And that doesn't mean I'm more or less intelligent. It's like with Callum, you know. Callum was a mechanic. I don't know the first thing at all about
a great skill to
electricity
have.
Exactly. I don't know anything about that world. But then you get people like Josh, who is just incredibly intelligent academically. But, for example, I'm not saying this is intelligence, but like I know way more about films than Josh does, right? It doesn't mean that I'm necessarily less intelligent or more intelligent than Josh, but the capacity of my brain and what I'm interested in is in different places than Josh.
Yeah.
Josh knows way more about video games than I do, but I know way more about films, but I listen to a lot more music than he does as well. So there's all these little different things.
Which I think is fine. Like, you've got things that you're interested in, don't you? So I don't go out of my way to learn things that I'm not really that interested in.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that's a bad thing or a good thing, but...
It's your own journey.
You know, you find your own niche, don't you? You find the things that you really like, and then you learn about them.
Yeah.
And then you become really good at them.
Yeah.
Because that's your profession, or
that's your jam.
that's what you're into. So
it's your calling.
You know, there's no way to compare it, is it? Because everyone's different, and you can't know everything. And
No.
even when you do know things, and the more you find out that you know things, the more you know that you don't know. So
I've said that before on the podcast as well. It's like
it's
exact thing. The more you find, the more
you know, the more you know you don't know.
The more you learn,
Yeah.
the more you realise you don't know.
Yeah.
It's madness. It's just the sheer
You
amount.
know, like, what is truth? There is none. There's no such thing.
There's
But we'll
perspective.
probably just not talk about that, because that's quite...
That's a heavy,
That's
big,
quite
that's a
different.
big, heavy subject to truth. I'll have to
Yeah.
just come down here and talk to you about moral philosophy a few
Yeah,
times.
philosophy with Molly.
That's it. Falafel
Molly.
That sounds like you've
That's
got your
a
own...
great name.
That's almost like you've got your own philosophical falafel and pancake joint. That's what you think
Ooh,
of. You've
that
got like
sounds nice.
making falafels and also making
That's
pancakes.
a good business.
Yeah, falafel Molly.
Yeah, falafels. Yeah, and you can
Falafel and
come
waffle.
into this cafe, get your food, and have a philosophical conversation.
Yeah, and you've got little cue cards on the tables, which have just got some crazy, really
Starter.
objective questions.
Yeah, starter questions.
They're all different coloured,
What are you having
colour-coded.
for your starter? And it's a type of question.
You could have like 3 tiers of it, and you have like advanced start. So if you've been here before, take out the red cards. Oh, this is a deep one. What is hope?
Oh, damn.
But you can have the starting ones of what's a calling in life, and like
This is great. We need to make this.
we need to somehow generate. Let's do a Kickstarter.
Someone write that down.
We'll do a Kickstarter.
Get in contact with us.
Save loads of money. We need someone who's just got loads of money and just doesn't know what to do with it and just wants to
Yeah,
invest
and
it.
we'll make this amazing cafe
Yep.
that has loads of workshops and talks and stuff. That
That'd be
sounds
cool.
great.
That'd be really groovy, actually.
We should do that.
That'd be lovely. Maybe.
We could make that happen.
Probably could.
We could. We could just go into we could ask someone, you know.
I'm just a random bloke on the street.
Yeah.
We'll go ask some of those people on the beach down there. Hey, do you want to? We're going to start
Do
with
you
philosophy.
want to come up here and have a little chat?
Come up here to this totally not dodgy looking random door in an alleyway.
Yeah, I've got a really creepy alleyway that leads to my flat.
That sounds so euphemic.
Yeah.
I've got a very creepy alleyway that leads to my flat. Okay.
My
Let's loop back round again on
Where are we
massive
going,
Philosopher Molly. Where are we going? The road to nowhere. I was going to talk about what you're doing now, actually, because some of the stuff you're doing, talking about like festival organising and all sort of other stuff. So
Yes.
you finished uni
Yeah.
and you got your degree and stuff, and then where'd you go?
Oh God! So I was a student ambassador.
Student ambassador.
Whoa! Could not say that. Student ambassador.
There we are. We've done it. It's all good.
Stretching my neck. Right. And I did that until like June. So I stayed in Chichester for a little while. Then
Yeah.
it was August. Maybe I stayed until July, I don't know. Anyway, then August happens, and that's like theatre goes crazy around August time. So I went up to Edinburgh, worked with a few people. I worked sort of like 3 jobs actually 4 jobs. I forgot about this one. I was flyering for another company, and that was actually paid, which was great. The other things I was doing was for free.
Right.
So I paid flyer. So I was just handing out flyers in different locations at different shows to promote a specific show.
Oh, okay.
It was a great show. It was a guy who was doing sort of circus skills.
Okay.
But it was really sort of mesmerizing performance with sort of juggling balls, and it was about like aging in time. And it was just amazing performance, which you wouldn't have ever, I guess, when you say circus, people wouldn't have thought about that. So I was promoting that show, got paid for it, good pay as well,
Nice.
Amazing, so that was good. So I could pay for my food when I was there. I was camping with someone because I was so he paid for the pitch. It was really expensive just to camp, and it was really far away from like the main Edinburgh festival.
Because it was this Fringe.
Yeah, it was the Fringe, Edinburgh Fringe, yeah. So, sorry, just assume everyone knows.
Everyone knows about my life.
And so we had to get the bus in every day. But I was helping him with his solo show, just turning on and off the music, getting people in to see the show, getting people out, that sort of really basic thing. Then I was helping with an organisation called Forest Fringe. They're amazing. If you're into contemporary theatre, they do lots and lots of stuff. International organisation. Look them up. They're great if you don't know about them. And then also, it was the first year that I was volunteer coordinator for Purbeck Valley Folk Festival. So whilst I was there, I was sort of making the rota for 130 stewards and getting in contact with people, telling them what their roles were. And then after those sort of 3 weeks there, I went to, Purbeck Valley Folk Festival and led the volunteers. And then after that, I just didn't have any jobs.
You had all of them at once.
August was busy. Yeah. But most of them were free. I was
Yeah.
doing them for free, so for the experience, But I had, my accommodation paid for, even though it's camping, still good fun.
Yeah.
Had a blow-up bed. They're actually really comfy.
I found that
I love them.
I only bought one about a year ago. I used to go camping
I've still
with
got
that
one up because I've just moved into a new flat and I didn't have a bed until the other day, so I've been sleeping on a blow-up mattress.
They're surprisingly comfy.
I love
it's
them.
Weird.
Ben hates them.
Really?
I don't know why.
Is it worse if there's
weird.
2 of you on it though?
I don't know, because I'm heavier than him, so he's like plumped up. I would be the one that's like touching the floor.
Yeah, but does that mean that he's rolling into you constantly?
He wouldn't mind that. So yeah, after that I didn't have a job and I was looking for ages. Very long time. It was very depressing. Everyone's always asking you, so what are you doing after uni? And you're like, oh God, I don't know. I don't have a job. I don't have any plans. I'm just trying to find a job that I love. So I was just applying for loads and loads of stuff, applying for things in London, because apparently everything's in London.
Yep.
And then no one would take you because you don't live in London yet.
Yep.
So apparently you have to live in London to be able to get a job in London, but don't you need the job to have money to be able to rent a place in London? Well, anyway, apparently, whatever. So I couldn't find a job, and I didn't want to apply for anything that I didn't like, but I was still applying for sort of like normal jobs that weren't theatre-based or production or marketing-based or anything like that.
You're alright with
Yeah,
do
like
for now sort of things.
recruiting jobs or even like stuff that was similar to being a student ambassador. Because I really loved that. I really liked helping, because being a student ambassador, you obviously are an ambassador. Does that even make sense? You're an ambassador for your university,
Like a
but
representative.
you also go to schools and help them choose their GCSEs or help them decide what their, understand what university is, understand what UCAS is,
Yeah.
and help them make those decisions, which
Yeah.
I loved that. That was great. Like, what do you love? Like, trying to help people, guide them to what they want to do. So that's really exciting. So I was like, oh yeah, I could do something like that. But nowhere would employ me. Like, I just couldn't get a job. And I had I had a 2-1 degree. Just wasn't getting anywhere. I even applied for Odeon
Oh, really?
And they didn't want to hire me either.
Really?
No.
Oh.
I tried KFC. Nope. But I couldn't find one. KFC is probably the only job that I applied for that I didn't want. Luckily, I didn't get it. But I was applied for loads and loads and loads of jobs. Then I sort of gave up, went away for a little while, came back. Then I signed on, which was the best thing that I did, because you get loads and loads of different opportunities if you sign on, especially if you're, well, for me, because I know, especially if you're doing creative stuff. So there was the creative employment program that was set up by the Arts Council.
I was going to say, just because people, in case they aren't sure, especially if there's any people who are listening on from Britain, signing on is the job seekers.
Oh yeah,
so
signing on to job seekers.
It's basically just saying
job centre. So saying, registering that you're unemployed and that you have to go to the job centre when you're younger, you have to go every week. So if you're older person, you only have to go like maybe twice a month or once a month. But I had to go every week to prove that I was applying for jobs.
Because they give you money as well.
Because they give you money.
200 quid every 2 weeks or something.
Yeah, it's not that much.
No.
But
it's better than nothing, obviously.
But I wasn't there for the money, actually.
Oh, of course, no.
I signed on because I was like, right, they're going to help me.
And stuff.
They're going to help me get a job. Job centre, in my experience, wasn't that great. They didn't help me. They didn't understand creative subjects at all. They didn't get it. You know, did a degree, but apparently that doesn't matter. So... But I could get an opportunity through the Creative Employment Programme, which is run by the Arts Council. It's not currently running at the moment, but there are other avenues like, oh goodness, what's it called? There's other foundations. If you want to know, email me, find me, and I can let you know. I'm very bad at trying to remember things off the cuff.
That's fine. People can look it up.
If you're unemployed and you don't have, and you come from a lower income background, you can get certain opportunities, and they say, oh, because you're registered as unemployed, we will hire you, basically. So there were a range of internships that I could apply for, and because I was unemployed and registered as unemployed, you have to be registered. So, and that's where I found B-Side, and that's what I'm doing now. So B-Side was doing... the role was festival producer and marketing assistant. Those were the two things I really wanted to learn about.
Yeah.
I was good at organising people, good at putting things on, good at getting things done. But I also really liked sort of designing material, designing programs, flyers, posters, all that sort of thing. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I want to try marketing and see what that's like. But I also want to be a producer. Well, here we go, B-Side, who I'd never heard of before. We're doing a festival producer and marketing assistant role. And I was like, oh my God, like that's perfect. That's exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I got it. How amazing.
Fate.
I know. I was so happy. I never heard of Portland before. So obviously I heard of Weymouth, but I didn't know where the hell the Isle of Portland was. I'd never heard of it. It's not something anyone had talked to me about.
No, I only know vaguely. So.
Yeah, so I didn't know about it. I was like, how far is this? And then I went to an interview and I got it.
Yeah.
They called me. They were like, you've got, we want to offer you it. You got to find out how to live here, So I moved in within a week, I found somewhere to live. I was lodging, and there we go. I started, that was 4 days a week when I started, and they've had me on ever since. That was over 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple of different contracts from them since then.
Yeah.
So it usually works as a 6-month contract basis, really. But I'm now their youth program coordinator and marketing assistant, so still a marketing assistant.
Yeah, you were telling me about this on the beach. It was really interesting hearing you talk about like the sort of programs you're setting up, because you're helping young people almost orchestrate their own festival and things.
Yeah,
aren't you?
yeah. So I've been part of a few things throughout my time, and I was part of a Y residency program with the South Bank Centre in London. They're a really big, well-known organisation. If nobody knows, Google South Bank Centre, they'll be right there. So that was a really cool thing to be a part of. It was a week-long residency, and it was involving people who were doing stuff, young activists who were doing things in their local area. And I'd just been doing a research project that was sort of funded by the Arts Council it's funded by the Arts Development Company, who are a great organisation. If you're based in Dorset and looking for creative support, creative work, creative mentorship, Google them. They're amazing. They've got loads of courses, free courses, and a network that you can join.
Oh, cool.
And also Wave Arts Education, who are based in Poole and Bournemouth.
Okay.
So they funded me to do a research project. Me and Rachel Dunford, we shared a job role. And research project around creative opportunities for young people. So I met with over 211 young people, asking them, I sort of led workshops asking them, what are you currently involved in creatively, and what do you want to be involved in? If you were to organise your own event, what would it be? So then we're finding out what they want to do, and perhaps, I want to set up an organisation that works with young people to put on those events that they've suggested.
Yeah.
That's what I've got in mind. That's what I want to do next, is create that organisation.
Okay.
I'm sort of in the midst of trying to do it, but it's like time and stuff and not having money. But that's what I want to do, work with young people to put on events that they want to do, and have the organisation support them, because all the organisations in Dorset do want to support it. They just don't have the means to. They have the money or they have the in-kind services. They just don't have perhaps the person in the post they don't have the time.
Yeah,
really.
the department you do need is a lot of, with that sort of thing, whenever it's organising any people, whether it's obviously the marketing side of being organised.
It's a lot of outreach.
Well, exactly. It's like when you're being organised, if you're even just doing marketing, that takes time. With every job role, obviously, it's time. And if there's a whole new branch of things or something which is so open-ended in a sense as almost community outreach of just, we want to help people do things they like. It's like, well, to even start that, you need so much groundwork to really, so I totally understand that.
And all the organisations are really keen to work together, so that's amazing. So I got involved with the Why Young Activists programme because I had that knowledge, and I'd done that sort of research, had that knowledge, and had some real strong opinions on education and sort of creativity. Yeah. And so through that, they run a Why festival. So every other year, they run a Why festival, and Why stands for What's Happening for the Young. And basically, the Why festival is based around the UN Conventions on the Rights of the Child. So it's all based around young people's rights, children's rights. And so that's really exciting. That's just an exciting thing. So I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that at B-side, or I want to do that wherever I can. So I posed it to B-side, and they said, let's go ahead, let's do it. So we're partnering with the South Bank Centre, and we're hosting this September a Why festival. There we go. So that's amazing thing to be doing. So through that, I've applied for 2 pots of funds. They've both been successful. Nice. Woo! Hooray me! And we've got money. I'm not sure I can actually say who it's from yet, because it hasn't been fully confirmed, signed off, that I can market it yet. No, of course not. With some funds, you can't say it until a certain date. Oh,
of course not. I didn't need to. We don't need the specific
I
details.
was going to say it, but I was telling myself no.
No, don't worry about it.
We've got funds, and so we can train young people in how to produce a festival and the things that they want to learn, bringing in professionals to teach them. So I'm the facilitator in that, and they're called the In Transit Producers, and it's a name that I came up with. Nice. And it's because they're in transit. They've left education, or they want to know how to become a producer, but they haven't done it in the real world yet. So they're in transit. They're not really producers yet, but they want to be.
Kind of on their way, in a sense.
They're on their way. They're not emerging, because everyone uses emerging or young. And everyone hates those terms. So I came up with a new term, in transit producers. Good. And there's 5 of them. They're amazing. If you look on either the B-side website or my website, you'll be able to see who they are.
I can put your website in the...
It's mollyscarborough.com.
Nice.
Yeah, and they're great. If you look at my blog, and
put the details in the
there's a list of them on there. They're all amazing. They've all got different ideas, different themes that they want to look at. And they're all very good advocates for young people's voices. That's what we need. So that's phenomenal, and I'm really excited to be working with them. Incredible, and I get to learn as well. So I'm paying to get them training as well as me. Yep. And then through that training, they then start programming their own Y festival. So it's up to them what they program, what they think is important. We're also using the research that I've previously done with all those 211 young people, and also doing our own research. So we're meeting with other young groups that potentially don't have their own say. So they might not be involved in these things.
So
we want to make sure that their voice is involved in our program. Also want them to come, but we also want to make sure that the program fits them as well, not just the 5 people organising.
Exactly.
And so we're definitely doing that. So that's fun.
Well, sort of like creative. It's like basically your creative passion of or being, for a better word, artsy. Your creative passion of being artsy and stuff, mixed with you wanting to be obviously your marketing side of things, as well as being with community, is all kind of culminated into this nice thing where you're now your passion is your job, which is helping young people pursue their passions for a job. It's like
that's exactly what I feel like. Those are the two things that I'm obviously passion and also making sure that other people fulfill their passion. Like that's what I'm about, and I want to make sure that young people do have the opportunity to get a job in the things that they like to do, and also get the opportunity to explore the things that they like to do. And that's also why I want to start up that organisation, mainly because of knowledge, because it's not out there. All of these organisations doing these fantastic things for young people, but only the elites know about it. Only the people whose parents are artists can be artists because
they've got the right money, the right connections, that sort of thing.
They know the people. And if you don't know the people, then how can you find out about that? And so that's part of what that organisation, and that's what that will want to do.
I'll have to have you on again and we can talk about it, because like one of the things, one of the questions, I mean, you've basically kind of half answered it because I basically think I know what you do with it, but one of the questions that I asked my friend Carla and I asked Erin in the podcast that may or may not be released when people are listening to this, I haven't figured out which order I'm releasing things, but basically what I'm going to vaguely kind of try and do a bit more is ask people on the podcast what they would do if they were just given like £1 million, for example. And if you said just you can't spend it on yourself directly, like you can't just buy yourself a giant house, a nice car, and go on loads of bender holidays. You'd have to it has to be some sort of goal. And my one personally, I said the one with Aaron, but it was basically I'd open up some sort of community studio building-y thing, and I'd have people who, not just kids, but people who can't afford to pursue passions, be able to use it. I'd have podcast stations set up. I'd have musical instruments everywhere. I'd have video recording equipment and green screens. I mean, this is more of a pipe dream because the amount of money I need for that sort of stuff is very high. But if I just got given £1 million, I could just do it. Then I would do that, and I'd just spend my time getting people to pursue passions in more media sort of side of things that I know about to a degree. That I could, because there's so many people who they never get to fulfill their passions because they didn't get the right opportunities, and
that's what it's about, isn't it? It's about opening up those opportunities to people who don't know about them. There's loads of things happening, but I didn't know about them.
Everything you've said today, I didn't know about any of it.
The Creative Employment Programme, I didn't know about that.
Nor did I.
I found it right at the end, and I was so lucky to be able to take advantage of that. Why didn't nobody tell me? Exactly. Like, it's all about. And children and young people find out most of the things from their school. So the schools are under so much pressure. They can't, tell them what they can go and do outside of school as well. Like, there's so many things. And, you can email teachers so many times, but they get loads of emails. They can't manage that. They can't
they're busy
manage that. So actually having 20 minutes aside where somebody else, aka me, can come in and be like, look, these are the creative things that are happening in Dorset. These are the opportunities that you can get involved with. Sign up. It's not about me, or it's actually about me promoting the other organisations in Dorset. That's what I would spend the money on.
It's a bigger cause. I was going to say.
£1 million. Like, God, what would you do? I think because that's what I want to do.
I
think I would just be like, I don't want to do it forever. Like, I know that I want to start that up, make sure that's happening, and then somebody else can take it. That's what I would like to do. So I just continue with B-side, but maybe quit the other things I was doing. Sorry, guys. And then and then just pursue that. Because that's That'd be amazing.
Yeah, it's always interesting hearing people what they would do with like an en masse of money. Like some people would like to go travelling, and like that would be fine.
I could do that anyway without money. I think if I really wanted to travel, I could just do it. You don't need a lot of money to be able to do that.
It's funny you say it because a friend of mine called TJ on the second podcast I ever did, it was just all about travelling, and she was just talking about travelling around Europe and Asia and that sort of thing. And she said she didn't. You need a certain amount of money, but if you're clever and careful with it, you can save up.
Depends sort of how you're travelling.
Exactly, that's what she said. That's what she said. Yeah.
If you're travelling for pure leisure, you probably need a little bit more.
4-star hotels, drinking margaritas.
Yeah, you would need more money, wouldn't you? But if you were travelling for experience and knowledge, you would pick up jobs along the way, would you not?
That's exactly what TJ did. Yeah, she said just pick up bar work for a week. Just work in a bar for a week and live
Australia,
there.
You wouldn't be able to do that, but other places,
Australia's
unless you had certificates.
Australia's a bit harder though, because getting to Australia is not just I'll just pop down to Australia. It's like £800 flight at least.
You need proof that you are a
value.
You're a barman as well, or a barwoman. Like you need proper certificates for that. Like, and I don't think many people get that when they work in bars. I know my cousin went, and she'd been working a bar for ages, but she couldn't get a job as in a bar because she didn't have
the right paperwork, essentially.
Yeah, which is very strange.
It is quite
Whereas here, it's all about experience. You say what you've done. People are like, oh, okay, yeah, come on. You might not have done the right role before, but you've done the right things.
Yeah, similar vein. Yeah. That's what in my job, like where I work in an insurance broker at the moment, I'm one of the only people in the company who never worked in insurance prior. And they were just like, well, your last job was quite niche, where I worked at Wisbit. It was, I was handling projects, handling individuals, everything was on a deadline, all different clients all wanting different things. And it was a similar vein of things, and they were just like, we'll give you a go, and they haven't fired me, and my probationary period ended the other week, and they said, yeah, we're not going to fire you, basically.
That's great. Is it like a rolling contract then? It's on
it's basically, it was just a 6-month probation. I'm full
and now
employed
it's permanent
and stuff.
now.
Yeah I've
see, I don't work by that doesn't, I have contracts, monthlies, 6 months.
You've got like 3 jobs.
3 jobs, yeah.
Once, while also within those jobs doing so many community outreach projects and sorts of other stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas me, I'm just 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Mine is. I'm not passionate about insurance. I'd be kind of worried about people who are, because that's a very bizarre thing to be passionate about. But like actively, like my calling in life is insurance. But I'm a broker as well, so it's not even an insurer. But like I do it because everyone I work with is really cool. I get paid a good enough wage to live on. I'd like to be paid more, but who wouldn't? Not like guys, anyone listening to this who works with me, I hate you all. I want to be paid more money. More just like you could always. It's always be nice to have more money. But I get paid enough, like a suitable amount. Everyone there is cool. I can do the job fine, and the hours are what I need is consistency. I need routine. I need Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, done. Then I don't have to worry about anything else. I can organise my life around that. Yeah. And then I pursue my passions in other ways, like the podcast and things like that. Yeah. So it's all about, like, I would, if I could make money out of podcasting, because I think you asked at the start, my dream, which is one of those dreams which is unlikely but not impossible, is if I could do this, say for another, 10 years, as in do the podcasting and working at my insurance brokers or something, and I built up enough of an audience over time that I could eventually have people paying, say, the Patreon thing that I think we briefly spoke about, and I could do exclusive podcasts for people who are subscribers to paying for it and that sort of thing. I mean, if I had, I can't remember the exact amount of listeners I've got at the moment, but like if I had, say, 500 people who were willing to donate £2 each, that's £2,000 a month. I don't know quite how taxes work with that. I'd have to look into it. But if I had a listener base of, let's say 10,000 people listened regularly, which that is not the numbers right now. But if I got 10,000 people listening, 500 of those donated £2 a month, which is literally less than a coffee, then you can make £2,000.
That's definitely how you should pitch it.
Well, that's kind of. Well, I'm not the only person.
Give up your, one of your coffees a day, or
well, that's it. You can't.
Give
I think
up
in
one
Starbucks,
coffee in a whole month.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And then
nothing.
I could pursue this as my career, and all I'd do then is I would just, like what I've done today, I took a day off work to come down and just hang with you because you're an old friend, and to do a podcast. And I would just invest all my time into podcasting. So I'd try and record a lot more. I'd end up releasing more than, I only release an hour a week at the moment. And this one, because it's longer than an hour, I'll split it in two, like, some of the other ones I've done, but if I could do it my own way, I'd have 2 episodes released a week, maybe one on a Sunday and then one on a Wednesday. Yeah. I'd have more time to edit and release them and stuff. So I'd be able to, that would be And so that's if I'm going to aim for that. I don't necessarily.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be naive and think this is definitely going to happen. But like, if I invest time into this, I've got my schedule. I have enough interesting people on there, and I'm going to start investing 10, 20 quid a month into advertising. On Facebook, Instagram, and there's a few podcast apps where there's little ads at the start and things like that. And I'm doing cross-promotional things. And as I get more listeners, more people are going to want to do it. Because if I get a few thousand people listening, more companies may be interested. And I want to... One of the things I've been thinking of recently is, as well as interesting people like yourself and all the other people I've had on, I'm going to start reaching out to certain charities and stuff. Like the Air Ambulance, for example, in Southampton. I already do the Hampshire one. I already donate £2.50 a month or something to that. And I'd like to get into contact with them, and one of their offices is right near my work, weirdly enough, and I saw a sign for it when I was delivering post
It's
at
a
one point.
sign.
There we go. Perfect. And so I was just like, maybe I'll give them a shout at one point, and I'd love to talk to like a paramedic or a helicopter pilot. There you go.
Yes,
flyer.
there we go. You're catching my little disease over there.
Well, I can't go in there, so I like to talk to the helicopter flyer. Cause like, what kind of interviewer are you?
I had to go to the helicopter flyer.
So I just, any charities, and there's quite a few other charities and things for that. There's some which are to do with young people about being either transgender or LGBTQ plus, all these sorts of little charities or just organisations which I think if I could talk to the right representative and not give them the voice like I've got some huge platform, but it's like a mutual beneficial thing. They can post on their social media about the podcast, more people listening
It's
to it.
a learning opportunity as well, isn't it?
Exactly. And one of the things I like about doing this podcast is I've managed to talk to so many people either about things I wouldn't talk to them about normally or just hang with people like... Obviously, you're cool, and I really like you, Molly, but the last 7 years, we haven't spoken to each other. Yeah. Not because we don't like each other, but because life is so busy, you can't keep in contact with everyone all the time.
Well, yeah, we've got like 1,000 different friends. So.
Exactly, and it's just like, you've got so many people in your life, not to mention jobs and relationships and family and time itself. If you work 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, I get in from work 6 o'clock each day.
Yeah.
Well, I go to bed about 12. Well, after eating, showering, chores, all that crap, I've got like 4 hours a night. You know? And then I've got the weekend as well, where I normally get mullered on 1 or 2 nights of the weekend with my friends. So it's just like, don't have enough time to do everything I want to do. But with the podcast, it's kind of forcing me to do these things, you know, and it's pushing me to...
It's giving you a little schedule as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
so that's
I have to
great.
release things weekly. So it's a deadline, which is what I thrive on.
It's also
deadlines.
like really exciting.
Yeah, it's always
So
quite...
you've got to go and find someone new, find out something new.
Yeah, exactly.
Get it done.
Yeah, and I've got a nice little back catalogue of things I've already recorded, and also where I live with Josh, we do Science But Simple, which is, I think I release it... I haven't intentionally done this, but I've released it every 6 episodes. I've released the first one's number 6, the next one's number 12, and then one was number 18. And I was like, maybe I'm going to start doing it kind of like that, but it was just coincidence.
Yeah.
And we talk about scientific things because obviously he's really clever and knows everything about science and has a PhD in marine biology. I did applied science at school and know nothing.
He has a PhD now.
No, sorry, I always say PhD.
What?
I'm sorry, Josh.
How did you do that quick?
He always listens to my podcast as well. That's the funny thing is, and I've said PhD not on the podcast but in real life, and he goes, "Mate, it's a degree." It's like, I'm sorry, and he's going to listen to this, and he's going to tell me because whenever I say something wrong in my podcasts, he comes in and goes,
"He's going to like poison your coffee or something."
Maybe he will. I don't drink coffee at home very much for that reason. Sorry, Josh. Josh does not have a PhD. He has a marine biology degree, but he should have a PhD because he's a genius.
He probably will do one day.
Maybe he's going into teaching. But with the podcast we do, because he lives with me, I've finally got this thing where I can, if worst case scenario, I really need to release a podcast in a couple of days and I've got nothing pre-recorded.
Josh knows things.
Well, Josh knows stuff, and we talk about, there's one I did with Reese, which was Reese and Josh, it was number 14, I think. We just talk about transgender and gender pronouns, like an hour long, and we just discuss that. And I've got quite a few friends who would be willing to do it at some point, and where there's not time constraints with them, I can just have that. So it is nice to be able to have not only the deadline of I need to get this done, but also the safety net of it's not the end of the world. Also, when I went to Iceland, I think it's when I went to Iceland, I just mentioned on one of my podcasts, I was just like, I'm not going to release an episode this month. Or it was around Christmas, I think. It was because Christmas Eve or Boxing Day or something like that. So around Christmas, like Sunday. And I was like, no one's going to really...
I can't remember that far back.
Nor can I. I was just like, I'm not going to release an episode because I want to just chill out around Christmas time. And no one would listen, but I'd rather just save it, you know?
Yeah.
So, and no one of my listeners have gone, how fucking dare you have a day off? We're going to never listen to you again. We're going to slate you online. We hate you. It's like, you know...
Everyone's taking a break then.
Yeah,
fine.
exactly. But some people in the podcast groups I like have gone. They actually don't like it when people take breaks because they're like, not they're annoyed that anyone does, but they're like, everyone takes a break at the same time, and I haven't got any new podcasts, and not like but it's like I get it, but it's like no, I kind of want to. It's like no new albums come out.
That's true.
Or
it's
like,
the best time to promote yourself.
Well, that's what
Christmas
I did.
Time.
Well, that's what I did because loads of people on social media. I just spent the week every day. I promoted a previous episode I did. And what I'm going to start doing is, I think I did it this week, is on Thursdays, just do Throwback Thursday of just an old episode I did.
Yeah.
Just because when I started out, no one was really listening because it was my first episode. So now it's kind of like...
some people might not have heard them yet.
Yeah, precisely. That's me being all self-indulgent, talking about me podcasting for ages and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's... everything you do, like with the £1 million thing, the question, I mean, I was going to ask you about that, but then you were just like, your goal. Have you got... So have you got like a goal for the next 5 years, 10 years, or anything like that? Like any? Not going to force you to.
No, I don't think I do. I think that's the next thing, that organisational idea. And then after that, I really just don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a free flowing thing.
That's nice. Really. Yeah, it's good.
It's things seem to. I think I seem to find the right things at the right time.
Happens quite a lot of people.
Because you're doing the right things, aren't you? You're doing the things you like, and then you end up finding the other thing that you really like.
Yeah.
And so it just sort of naturally flows that way. And I am thinking of looking at sort of reshuffling a few things at the moment, because I've been doing the exact same thing for over a year now.
Yeah.
And so maybe something needs to change. You know, I'm self-employed, so I can change what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I can change what time I'm doing. So, you know, I don't have a 9 to 5 like you. I can be up at 5 a.m. working, or you know.
Yeah, and your work dynamic is different to mine because mine, I've got work as to put money on the table, and then my passion is something separate.
Yeah.
But yours is like some sort of combination.
Combined. It's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think Ben doesn't really understand it because he's got like a normal job.
Yeah.
He's like data analyst.
Yeah.
9 to 5. Well, 9:30 to 5:30 to be specific.
Quite specific with that.
And yeah, like he doesn't. I guess he doesn't understand it because I'm working nearly all the time, really.
Yeah.
Because you know I take breaks at different times in the day.
Yeah.
You know, I'm starting to restructure it a little bit, so I do schedule in personal time. Yeah, so there's now a thing where I have to schedule personal time. That's a thing.
Personal time.
That's a thing. And
that makes you think of like someone's like.
It does sound bad, doesn't it?
It's like I need to go to the bedroom for half an hour for some personal time.
Personal time. But like working on my own stuff, not working on, you know, because self-employed, I've got 3 jobs, which is, you know, that's quite a lot. And it's meant to work out at 4.5 days a week.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really. You end up doing a little bit more.
Well, that's what happens when you're self-employed. You end up just putting. You go, if I finish this now, it's only going to take another.
It's also like when you've got a self-employed contract, your freelance contract, you have to do a certain amount of things in a certain time. But it also says in your contract that you have to do those things no matter how long it takes. So if you do it quicker, good on you.
Yeah.
If it takes longer, well, it sucks, but you still have to do it.
Yeah.
So but also there's like, I've been thinking recently, you know, there's a sort of fight against quality or quantity, and you know, you put a lot of time in to things because you want them to be the best that they can be.
Exactly, yeah.
But then that's when you end up spending, you know, then your value of as a self-employed person, artist, whatever you may be, becomes less because you're doing more stuff for the same amount of pay.
Yeah, yeah.
So then your actual rate of pay goes down the more time you spend on it. So I've been looking at that again recently. You have to keep on sort of
reevaluating.
Yeah, assessing yourself really because oh god, am I really doing the right thing? Am I spending the right amount of time on things?
It's easy to delve and get stuck in like a rabbit hole, isn't it? Of your
and it's
own work.
also like I want to be a producer. I also want to perform. You know, I've still got that solo show that we haven't spoken about, but I've got a solo show that I want to make.
Yeah.
I've got like a draft of it that I made like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But I've spent time sort of establishing myself as a professional. Be that as a sort of facilitator and producer, creative collaborator. I've stolen that from Kate McStraw, who I work with. She calls herself a creative collaborator, and I really like that term.
That is a good name.
So I'm just sort of stealing that one. She said I could, so it's fine. So as a creative collaborator, and so I've established myself. I've got money now. You know, I've got a job. I've got jobs that I'm getting paid for.
Yeah.
So now it's trying to make sure that I structure in time for me to raise funds to be able to create that show or to get the right support to create that show.
Yeah.
And so that's difficult, you know, managing that time. You know, I write a few blogs about stuff like that. So if anyone does creative things and they want to find out what I think about them, you know, give me a little follow on my website.
Yeah, I'll include all your links and stuff in the description and all the places and whatnot. And
I'm gonna do a blog. I've written a sort of blog, but I haven't put it out yet, about time management. I think it's a really good thing to think about, and also because a lot of the time people think that responding to emails straight away makes you look really good, and that is like the efficient way to do it.
Right.
But it's not. It's not efficient at all. Doing it that way and responding to things straight away isn't good, really, because people think that you're working all the time.
Yeah.
Also, because that might not be the most important thing right now.
Yeah.
And that's how computers work, and that's sort of what I talk about is computers, you know, put them in order. They go, right, so what's the most important thing?
Yeah.
And I'm going to put them in little buckets. And so I don't need to look at that for another hour.
Yeah.
So that email from Purbeck Valley Folk Festival, I don't need to look at that yet because I'm actually working on B-side and the Wife Festival. And that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And you've got to try to be really strict with yourself sometimes to not do those 3 jobs at the same time.
Yeah.
Because then it gets a little bit complicated.
Time management is key for a lot of things. I mean, like with me, with the podcast, I'm obviously doing time management a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And even like, I get the occasional email. I've had a couple of emails with people either want to do collaborations or sort of promos, these sort of things. It's like, if I answer every one of them immediately as soon as I get them, well, it's like, I haven't had time to process it or do that. And then, you know, just getting at your phone, putting yourself in, okay, I've got to think about this email. If you leave it and go, okay, some point tonight, I'll just set aside, I'll keep the email as unread or whatever, so I won't forget about it. Leave that. Later on in the evening, once you've eaten, showered and everything, and then you've got, okay, I've got a couple of hours to do what I want, you just sit there, half an hour, just go respond to them all, do all the things you need to do, and it's all kind of, there has to be a healthy amount of compartmentalisation, I find, with everything. Yeah. And it happens with pleasure and work as well. And obviously when yours is kind of like a mix, it's even more, it's like the lines are more blurred in a sense. But it's, you know, you get people who work way too much. And I understand because my dad, he ran his own company and he works every day of the week. You know, 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday it was like 9 to 12-ish. But sometimes he did more if he was really busy. And that's fine, but I find that he partially worked himself to death because him getting ill because of the cancer was partially, I imagine...
Because he didn't pay attention to his own health.
Well, exactly, and he knew he was a little bit ill in this, but he didn't want to.
He didn't have
make
the
himself...
time for it. That's the thing. You need to.
He's too focused on work.
That's what I'm doing as well.
Yeah,
like,
that's 100%.
Structuring that time so I think about myself, what I want to do, even if that's work, passion, or health.
Yeah.
You know, I'm making sure that that's in my diary and that's aware to all the people I'm working with as well.
Exactly.
Created a nice little colour-coded little diagram for people.
That's when you know you're
when
professional.
I'm not working for them.
Yeah.
So they know that
Just on that time, unless it's unbelievable emergency, just leave it to the next
I am
point.
freelance still. I can still work for different people nearly any day.
Yeah.
But I do have requirements from certain jobs. You know, B-side requires me to be there on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Therefore, I can't work for anyone else on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know, some days like Monday and Friday, they're a mixture of things. So I do half one thing and half the other.
Yeah.
So I am more available.
Exactly.
So,
well, it's a good thing. Time management is very key with people, and it's like one thing that I find a lot of people don't do is they don't give. People don't get the balance right of work and play. Often I find there's people who play way too much and then never get things done. Or I find generally, I don't know if it's the people I associate myself with, but I find people work too much, and what ends up happening is they're working all the time. They don't give themselves. But to be honest, like with the people, my friends say that I make my own life difficult because I make myself so busy all the time. But
that's the way you operate.
I thrive. I can't. It's like we were talking about when I had that bit of time off, the 2 months between jobs, and when I started on the podcast, I had to be doing something all the time because I do exercise for an hour or two in a day, and then I also, I socialise and that sort of jazz, but also go to the cinema. But then I've got to make sure I'm looking for jobs when I was unemployed and starting up the podcast, looking at research of how you start up a podcast, all these sorts of, and it's like, I need to be doing something. But even if I plan, right, tonight, like I watched, with Josh, I watched anime quite a lot. We just watched a few things on Netflix, like Full Metal Alchemist, and we're currently watching something called Fairy Tale. And, a lot of fun. And because I used to watch Dragon Ball Z a lot when I was younger, that sort of thing.
I used to watch Dragon Ball Z.
I love Dragon Ball Z. I was thinking about getting a Dragon Ball Z tattoo at some point, actually, a little cheeky one. Yeah. I'd love it.
Flames coming up.
Yeah, just like Super Saiyan all the way. It's, so with Josh, I set aside that time, and it's, even if
That's
sometimes,
nice.
And sometimes it's like I feel like, I should do work or anything, but it's like, it's so easy to burn yourself out. It's very, especially when you've got almost the motivation or the drive to do it, you end up, when you're being self-employed, it must be even more so, where you're like, okay, I'm working, and then it gets to 5 or 6, I should take a break, or I should eat something, and then you're like, yeah, but if I just work for another hour or two, I'll get everything done.
Eating is definitely a thing that I miss out a lot of the time.
I've started to a little bit. I've had to align myself.
You have
and be
to,
sure.
because it's also like you have to think about your health as well.
Because it's so easy, I find, to miss meals. Just like, I'm really busy, I'm not going to eat dinner tonight, and you do it, and then it gets like 9, and then I find I don't feel hungry.
I haven't eaten at all today. That happens quite often,
and I don't get hungry because of it. What ends up happening is I just get in a really shit mood. I get hangry basically, but I'm not like, I'm starving hungry or I haven't eaten. I'm more like, I get that point, but then I go past that point.
Yeah, you go past it,
and then I'm just in a bad mood. I just feel like shit, and I'm like, I feel like depressed. I'm like, I hate everyone. Then someone talks to you, and you're a bit of a dick to them, and then they're like, oh, someone's on the wrong side of the bed, and you're like, wait a minute, what's going on today? Why am I in such a bad mood? Nothing bad has happened. Then you go, oh, I haven't eaten in 9 hours, or I haven't eaten since yesterday evening. So it's been like, it's out now. It's like 18 hours since I've had anything to eat. I've drank like 2 glasses of water. It's like, that's why.
And we forget that affects us.
We like to think it doesn't, though.
We forget that, like, we need to have basic needs.
Well, that's what annoys me about being human in a way, that thing of, at times like, I've got loads of work to do. It's like, but I need to eat tonight, which is cooking and eating it. Then I need to have a shower, and then I need to cut my fingernails, I need to shave, I need to all do, and it ends up being like 2, sometimes 3 hours and chores, and all these things that add up because you have to eat. And it's like, lose 3 hours because you have to live. And it's like, I can't be arsed.
It's annoying, isn't it?
I've got shit to do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, it's good that we were on
the same page for that. Yeah.
Oh, jinx! Hey, can't talk.
My god!
Oh god! Do you remember school people used to say jinx? I don't know if you got it because
jinx padlocked.
Yeah, and then if you talk, they try and punch you.
Yeah.
And then I remember what happened was someone would say...
You had to say your whole name 3 times.
Someone else had to say it.
Yeah.
And you had to say it to them, and loads of people were like, how am I going to say it? All I would do is I would just...
And some people wouldn't know your middle name, and then you would be locked, jinxed, forever.
You'll never...
See, that's why my middle name's on Facebook, guys. So I'm never muted.
Never worried about... never muted. That's great. I just remember people being like, can't talk, and you talk and they punch you in the arm, and then you just go, okay, and you just punch them back, and they go, you can't do that. It's like, yes, I can. Yes. It's not part of the game.
Yeah.
I'm not playing your fucking game, mate.
Yeah.
I didn't say that because I was like 12. I was a little goody two-shoes. I didn't swear for quite a while. Chamberlain did change me, though, with the chavs.
Oh, yes.
Oh, Christ. All that.
Transformative place.
Yeah, very...
Perhaps maybe not in the best of ways.
Maybe not, no. Watching chavs chase a gay dude around a school and throw stones at him was... It was an eye-opener of, there are people who can be pieces of shit, but also they're young and they have that weird... They haven't thought about it. Like, they don't understand. Cause
they were real bullies, weren't they?
Oh, horrendous at our school.
Yeah, I didn't let that happen.
No.
They pushed... Who did they push? They pushed, like, Little Louis or something.
Oh, you can say Little Louis, yeah. No one knows who Little Louis is.
They won't know who that is. Yeah. And I was just like...
I remember you talking to him about that.
Just balancing them back off of me.
Yeah.
I was like, don't you dare.
Not in my school, sir.
Yeah, but why bully people just because they're smaller than you?
It's because it's
like,
power
they were
complex.
walking down the corridor... And they thought, let's play ping pong.
Oh,
year 7.
They used to do that. The year 11s used to do it all the time.
They couldn't do it to me.
That's
too strong.
It's like have those kids. You'd have the year 11s. I remember when I was in year 7, and when you're in year 6 in primary school, you're like, I'm on top of the world, even though you're 10 or 11.
Yeah,
then bam, bottom of the food chain, and
back at the bottom of the chain.
Exactly. When you're in primary school, when you're like 10, you're still pretty weak. But like a 16-year-old compared to a 10-year-old is quite a gap, And you walk down the corridor, and they just push you, and you're so small compared to them. It's ping pong, ping pong. They used to do that thing at our school where they used to get deodorant cans and lighters. and try and melt people's shoes with them.
Oh God, we're a classy bunch.
We were. But we've basically pretty much hit the 2-hour mark.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's madness, isn't it? Time flies when you're having fun. It's
2
also
hours.
Yeah, it's it's 1 hour 50, but obviously I normally do like a little intro and outro thing, so I generally about the hour sort of thing, and we seem to have come into a nice little natural stop. No, it doesn't sound very natural. It's like a
Fade.
decline, whatever. That's it. It's also because it's so light outside. It doesn't seem like any time has
Doesn't feel like
passed.
time has passed.
Well, so when people come over to the podcast before, if they start like 3ish and it's in winter, by 4:30 it's dark. Yeah, so it's very easy to tell the time.
We're just looking out at the beach.
How lush it is out there. And then I'm going to drive home so I can hang out with the guys.
Oh yeah, it's Friday night.
What are you doing tonight?
Working and sleeping.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, Molly. Well, definitely when you get all the other sort of stuff moving, we'll have to do another one and chat about all your sort of other projects going on. Very busy
Got
individual.
loads of stuff to talk about. I've got a LGBT project that I could talk about, which might be interesting with your, gender chats.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to do. I mean, there's I haven't had anyone. A few of the women I've had on have been bisexual, but they're just. I think every woman I've ever dated has been bi as well, but it's quite a woman who's bi is quite common. But like more, I know 1 or 2 people who know someone who's transgender, and I'd really like to talk to someone who's transgender. I think that'd be a really interesting talk. Not because you hear these things with like Laverne Cox or Caitlyn Jenner, all these big Hollywood people doing it, and that's fine. But there's very few chats about people who aren't famous who've gone through it.
I'm actually working. I run a bursary scheme at B-side with young artists. I'm actually working with a young transgender man. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be really interesting.
That's great. Yeah.
I will have to drop with Scroobius Pip, obviously we discussed before. He got me into podcasting, and his podcast is pretty huge now. It's British. He has a podcast with it's called Tall Dark Friend, and it's Jordan something. I can't remember the full name, but it was it's transgender. I believe it was a male to female. They're a musical artist, actually. They've got quite a few tracks out and stuff. And the podcast chat with them is really good because they're from somewhere in London. They were never rich. So hearing from a transgender person if you're in Hollywood, it can be difficult in other ways. But if you've got loads of money, when you've got loads of money, life, I'm not saying is easier.
It's a lot easier. I know that I was speaking about that as well. He's... we were talking about it the other day.
Yeah.
How... he had to wait 2 years.
Yeah.
With Hollywood stars.
They just do it tomorrow.
It's,
and a top end surgeon,
easy,
loads of money.
Straight away. Is that a good or a bad thing?
It's a hard one.
Have they thought about it enough? They can do it so quickly.
Yeah.
They don't have that period of time where they have to go through all these processes. And
exactly.
Transformations and all this
well, a good analogy for it.
Hormones and stuff.
A good analogy, which is it's not quite comparable because it's so minor in comparison, but an easy way for people to kind of wrap their head around it if they're having any difficulty would be a tattoo, right? Tattoo is on you forever, unless obviously you get it burned off and that sort of thing. But for this argument, tattoos forever. I didn't have the money to get a tattoo when I was really young. I and my parents wouldn't have paid for it or anything, so I got it I got some of the money as a gift from my mum for my 22nd birthday or something like that. And my girlfriend at the time, she gave me a little bit of money for it, and I put some more money, but it cost best part £400. Well, that's, especially when you're working, that's quite a large chunk, especially when I don't earn that much. Like that's a good chunk of my money, right? And my rent is more than that, for example, so it's like only a little bit more. So it's like, if I had as much, if someone gave me loads and loads and loads of money right now, I'd probably get the Star Wars sleeve done by the end of the year. But maybe that's not the best thing for it, Maybe it's good to wait. And so this tattoo is 2 years old. I'm planning another one this year. I've got a tattoo voucher Mum got me for my birthday, and each month I'm putting 20, 40 quid away in this little slip, and then when I get 400 quid, I can go, So over time, I can add to it.
Yeah.
But if I had all the money, my whole arm would be sleeved. If I was really rich, I'd probably have tattoos both sleeves, and then I'd get to 30 and I wouldn't have any space left.
Yeah.
And with that tiny analogy of just that's a permanent thing, when you have something as huge life-changing as transgender, like there are people who can go through a lot of stuff who think they want to transition, and then they get to the final hurdle and maybe something changes they don't want to because of hundreds of reasons, which obviously that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother podcast. But like all these things to think about, and that's a very good point I hadn't thought of with the Hollywood stars being able to do it immediately rather than having time to think about it as much. So I would definitely love to either chat.
Yeah, there's thousands of processes to go through. if you're doing it on the NHS and you don't have the money, you have to wait.
Yeah.
And blah, blah, blah. Go through this, go through these forms of things, go to these meetings.
Yeah.
Then you're allowed your hormones.
Yeah, which should be the way it should go. You should have psychological profiling, all these to make sure they're in the right mindset.
At the moment, it's too long, but still, there should be. Well, what we were saying, that there should be, a process.
Yeah, definitely. They shouldn't be able to just snap your fingers, essentially. But I totally agree with you there. I mean, but yeah, well, I'll talk to you about it after the podcast about some other sort of ideas, because I'm sure we could do a lot more collaborations and stuff. That'd be great. But yeah, thank you very much, Molly. If you want to I'll put it in the description. If you just want to say if you got on any social media or any blogs or anything like that, you want to shout out to?
You can follow me or you can research me on mollyscarborough.com. And you can find all my social media on there as well. Yeah. My Twitter and my Instagram. They're both Molly Scar.
Oh, nice.
Molly Scar.
Nice, edgy.
So edgy. So yeah, just email me if you want as well. I'm cool to have a chat about stuff.
Awesome. Well, that's a great time to end it. Thank you very much for being on your podcast.
Thanks for having me.
No worries at all. It's all good. Lots of fun.
Ciao.
And that's the end of part 2. Thanks as always for tuning in, guys. As we and Molly were discussing in the podcast, I've put some of her contact details in the description, just like I did in the last episode. So, yeah, feel free to contact her if you desire. And you can find all her sort of social media jazz and whatnot among her website as well. Next week is going to be me chatting with my buddy Jack. Now, the first part, which will be released, we speak about Scotland. We talk about movies a little bit. We talk about the Second Amendment in America, black influence in sort of culture, music, and identity politics. We then talk about motorbike collisions. Like, he's been in 1 or 2 motorcycle accidents, which are really, really interesting to hear about. And we talk about just general sort of automobile incidences. And then we talk about focusing on the differences and similarities between us as well, which I think goes into the sort of identity politics a little bit. And then we go towards the end. We delve a little bit into Jack's heart condition. I can't remember for the life of me what it's called, but he has this heart condition which is, it makes a regular heartbeat. It can go really fast or really slow. It can go sort of times where it doesn't beat for a while and then suddenly beats quite a bit. It's crazy to hear about, and the sort of effect it has on his body, and he almost has died from it. So that's really interesting. And then the second part of the chat, we delve into a lot more detailed things. I think we speak about quantum mechanics, more into his heart condition, aliens, a few conspiracy theories. So part 1 is the sort of grounded culture, sort of, Scotland, England, black influence music, all this sort of things I've just mentioned. It's quite a sort of grounded things. And then the part 2 is going to be a bit more crazy and a bit more off the rails in a sense. But when I release the episode next week, at the end of part 1, I imagine I'll talk about part 2 a little bit more. Because at the moment I don't quite have time to listen back to the whole episode, even though I'd really want to. But I'm about to have a barbecue, so going to be doing that instead. So sorry guys, the quality of the podcast description for next week is lowered because I'm selfish and have a social life. Anyway, thanks as always for tuning in, guys. Make sure you like us on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, review us on iTunes, Facebook, any of those sorts of places. Always appreciate it. Any feedback I'm happy with. I think that's really it, unless I've forgotten something and then I have to try and subtly shoulder it in later on, but I don't think I've done that this time, so hopefully that'll be the end of it. Thanks as always for tuning in, guys. Really appreciate it, and I'll talk to you next week.